Mary Liz, can I ask you, before it slips my mind, how many apprenticeship places are available through local authorities across the state?
I don't have the answer on that, Deputy, but I can go back to you on it. I know there's been a big drive to work on that and increase that, and there's a target of 750, public service, apprenticeships, over the period of the plan, which will include local authorities.
I really want the local authority figures, and why I do is because I think it's denied. There's opportunities there for the craft apprenticeships in particular. And every time I ask the question of a local authority, I can't get an answer. And I think we need to look at the baseline that we're looking at there to be able to do it, because I do think that they have a responsibility to not only talk the talk but to walk the walk. And it's in their own interest in terms of having skilled staff in each of the areas that will live in the areas and all that. It's an ideal opportunity. It would be really good if you could maybe let us have, as a committee, to have those figures on the local authority. It doesn't matter if it's zero, well, it does matter, but I mean, at least we know what we're working towards, and we can set proper targets specifically for local authorities. I'm interested in. Thank you. Obviously the others are important too. So that was just while it was on my mind. And Andrew, it was good to see you in ACL yesterday. I thought that was a great launch of ACL outdoor education. It really, there's huge opportunities there, and obviously the strategy needs the funding to go with it, but you could get the energy and the dedication to making it a success. And I think, as I said to you yesterday, I see real potential there for an all-island approach to that as well, for attracting students from the north for outdoor education as well. And the benefits of that won't be just academic and educational, but also the exchange of experiences and the understanding in the whole peace and reconciliation process that we're trying to achieve across the island. So congratulations to everybody involved in that. Now, for the HEA, in your opening statement, you stated that the reform of the technological sector would allow technological universities to both respond regionally and compete on the world stage, and that the 2018 Act set out an ambitious agenda for these new institutions to improve the research capacity, resulting in the deepening of the research-led teaching and learning excellence. During the 7 years of the last Horizon Europe funding, the HE sector in this state successfully won just over $500 million in research funding, 679 million. The technological sector got about 8% of that at 54 million. The three institutions that make the newly formed Atlantic Technological University managed at 3 million of that, under 0.5% of the total. For comparison, Teagasc as a research body drew down about 6 times that much. So my question to you is, how do we design a funding model that positively discriminates towards the regions that are not at the same level in terms of research and development, and the overall available funding is split 60-40 between the traditional university and technological sector? So how do we create a unitary system there where the technological sector receives a greater share, and higher education indeed receives a greater share, or are there other approaches that we need to look at? And in terms of the regional disparities, again, the CSO figures last week tell us that the gap is now 3 times wider than it was 10 years ago. So we are failing. We are all failing in addressing that disparity there. And even when we look at higher education, we see that from the economist John Daly, that in terms of capital funding, €316 per undergraduate enrolled between 2010 and 2020 in the north and regional, the northwest and regional, while 375 was the national figure. So you can see why it's happening and why the gap is increasing, and we have a responsibility there. So just your thoughts on that specifically, because I have some other questions.
Thanks, Deputy. I'll try and be quick, but that's an excellent question, and you've identified actually part of the issue I think that we're trying to address with technological universities. It's one of capacity and of scale. So if we take on capital investment, for example, for a small institution to manage a broad capital portfolio is difficult. It's difficult to put the applications together. It's difficult to compete for the funding. The same goes for research. Horizon Europe is a very competitive programme. And the institutions that are now making up technological universities were formerly very much teaching and learning institutions. They came out of a kind of an almost post-secondary to create opportunities in regions. We are trying to supersize them in terms of the contribution they can make to regions, such as is called out in the National Development Plan, where there are very ambitious targets for the Western Seaboard. The new Atlantic Technological University will play a very important part in that. And the way it does that, we're looking at investing into building capacity in research supports. So you have an excellent academic who is very capable of running a research project, but is not able to get through the red tape of a Horizon 2020. They need the supports in the institutions, and that's what we build. We build the capacity around about the grant writing, around about the application process, around about the engagement with enterprise. We support people in that endeavour. So I think we have excellent people in those institutions. We're bringing them all together in a larger scale institution, and we're going to support them in their endeavours.
So do you have the resources to support them in doing that and to get the necessary
We are almost there. We're working very closely with our parent department and with the regional assemblies, for example, in the context of the European Regional Development Funding. We think we can do something really big there, working with HEA, SFI, Enterprise Ireland, bringing all of those various actors together to say what are the bits each of us will contribute to actually enabling that research culture, enabling that research engagement. And I think we're close to that. There are people who really want to participate, who want to engage, who want to apply for research funding and secure research funding. They just haven't had the capacity because of teaching loads and the structure of the system, which we're working to change.
Okay,
thanks.
Just a question for Solas. In your opening statement, you say that further education offers learning pathways to take you as far as you want to go. I believe that we need to place greater emphasis and attention on the really good work that's been done there and the potential of further education. However, I'm not convinced that the pathways are adequately in place. And I always return to the fact that less than 5% roughly of the 4,000 students that study pre-nursing go on to study degree-level nursing. Now, the Minister often refers to the pre-law situation. However, I have asked for figures on the progression of pre-law students to degree level, but I've been told that the data isn't collected. So I'm conscious of the fact that many students go to further education for the education they receive there and for not as the pathway to a university or to an IOT through pre-law or nursing, I imagine. Many of students will not have the desire, but I am concerned about the pathways that are there, and I think that nursing is the stark example to us. Why do so few nurses go on that do
Yeah, no, thanks, Deputy. Look, I think it's an important issue. At the moment, there are 5,000 people with a PLC qualification that go on into higher education degrees. It's about equivalent to a fifth of the intake in the technological higher education sector. But it's all ad hoc, which I think is in part of the answer to your question.
I want to ask you, because I'm out of time, but how important is it that we make the pathways, a key component of the future funding model that we all agree to?
I think it's critical from a Solace perspective, from a pathway perspective. We need to incentivise those links, and we need to build on that 5,000 people. As I say, it depends on institution to institution arrangements. We need to mainstream that. We need to have universal agreements in areas like nursing, like technology, maybe even teacher education as well. And then you will see those numbers increase, and you will see those pathways happen. I also think there's an opportunity for co-development and co-delivery of degree programmes. There's a great example in Cavan and Monaghan at the moment with Athlone IT and IT Sligo, although they're obviously changing into TUs as we speak. There's also a great example of Ballyfermot College working with DCU, where they start off the delivery of the degree programme locally, and then they progress into the university setting. So I think there's real potential to develop that area. It's, in Scotland, that's a kind of tried and tested route, so that you're not talking about an either or, you're talking about a pathway through the system.
Yeah. exactly. That's
And
what
I think
would like to
I think we may be able to get you figures on the pre-law progression, because we have
Yeah.
good stats from 2 or 3 years ago now, maybe 2 or 3 years out of date. We've definitely looked at it theme by theme at that stage. So we'll
Well,
get
that
back
would be
to you on
useful
that.
to the
So-
committee as well. And I suppose as a committee, we look forward to going out to all of the higher education institutes as well, because it's only by going to Ballyfermot myself, that you get a real feel for the real work that's done there in really, really changing people's lives, even more so than it's done at a higher education level. So thank you.